Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All2ReelToo. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Lang, and Carta.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Interesting name.
Thank you.
So, how you doing?
I am doing well, like a bunch of ants that have learned how to create a technocratic utopian society.
You know what?
What?
That should be how the United States is run.
Should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
By ants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like ants, not like your ants.
No,
like
not like my aunt who lives in Florida or anything, right?
No, not that. Like
okay.
Actual ants.
Yeah, okay. Not my mom's sister. Just making sure. Okay.
No. Well, I guess they could run the country too. But
yeah, I mean, more power to her, but
yeah,
she's up there in age, and I don't think she'd be I don't think she's running for president anytime soon.
You never know. I mean, it's possible.
When I first saw the first Ant-Man, that's what I was thinking it was about. It was that
really?
Paul Rudd was going to turn into my mom's sister, and it never happened, and I was really confused.
You're like kind of disappointed a little bit.
Yeah, I was like hoping I was hoping that my aunt got a job from Marvel.
Yeah,
and no, she didn't.
I mean, that would come with a lot of perks and stuff. So
yeah, because I was hoping that I'd be able to meet Paul Rudd.
Right. But... I want to meet Paul Rudd.
Yes.
That's actually one of my goals in life is to meet Paul Rudd and actually hang out with him for like one day or whatever. Like not just get an autograph, but just like hang out with them. I think that would be pretty cool.
So what we do is like the Celtic Pride movie.
Yes.
You and I.
We kidnap
Paul Rudd.
No.
And make him hang out with us for a day. That's how it works, right?
There's a pun in there, Celtic Pride, so it'd be like, what would it be called? Like Paul Pride? No. Whatever. I'll think of it later.
Celtic Rudd.
Yeah, there we go. Or Crud. No. Whatever. We'll figure it out.
There's a thing going on online right now. There's a dog that this shelter wants Paul Rudd to adopt that supposedly looks like him. And they named the dog Paw Rough.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
All rough. All right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
Look that up if you want to see a dog that kind of looks like Paul Rudd, but not really.
Cool.
Yeah. So, if you haven't gathered by the title of this episode, if you somehow just randomly tuned into our episode on your podcast player,
to have it spoiled for you like immediately.
We're talking about
sorry.
We're talking about the new film Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
A little bit of a long title in my opinion, but okay,
And a misleading title too, but that we'll get into
right off
later.
the bat, I was a little bit. The title's a little bit clunky, but okay, it's fine. Whatever, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, it's a little bit misleading too, because it's kind of like Ant-Man and his daughter, and the Wasp is here too.
And also Michelle Pfeiffer is there, and
she's there more than her own daughter, who's in the title of the movie. But I guess she could be considered the Wasp as well.
Well, it's kind of like a
yeah.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness type of situation where, Scarlet Witch is like kind of the main character. Although I think this movie was a lot better than that one, so I'm not really comparing the quality of the film because, I really enjoyed this movie. I liked it a lot.
I found them both fun, but this one more fun.
This one was...
Yeah. So, initial thoughts here. And just a heads up to anybody that's listening, go see the movie before you listen to the rest of this. Because, we have not be ant-sized spoilers, but we've got, giant man spoilers.
Right, yeah, so...
Yeah.
Just be careful.
And normal-sized man spoilers.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
So, yeah, my initial thoughts were, again, I thought it was really fun movie. I like Paul Rudd. I think he's a very funny dude. I like the Ant-Man movies in particular because they don't, take themselves too seriously. Although with this one kind of had a more serious topic, so it kind of did veer into that a little bit, but it was still, had a sort of Ant-Man kind of comedy to it, which is, kind of why I like this particular series. Like this and the Guardians, I kind of like, it's doesn't really take themselves too seriously. Although this particular movie is very important in that it does introduce us formally into the new, I guess the new saga or the new phase.
Yeah, it's the first.
Well, no, it's literally the first phase 5. Yeah,
yeah, it's the first episode in phase 5. Yeah, so yeah.
So, that aspect, but I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm liking that some of the newer movies aren't as long as like 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
They're starting to shorten the movies a little bit, which, kind of like the whole Pete Davidson thing, looking for a short ass movie, sketch from SNL. Cause I do think for a while we're getting into some like crazy territory here where it's like, do we really need 3-hour long Marvel films? Like, it's not Citizen Kane. I mean, like, they're good, for sure, but do we really need, like, JFK long films, like, over Thanos or something like that? Like, you could easily make these movies 2 hours long or even a little bit less and still tell a good story,
We don't really need Lord of the Rings.
Right.
We didn't really need those long of movies in Lord of the Rings either, but...
No, we didn't. No, so I remember watching them, like, with you and like the other friends, and like we watched like to catch me up to speed. So we watched like literally one a night for like 3 nights straight. I'm like, okay, I'm getting exhausted.
It was like a full-time job.
It was getting a little bit much. I'm like, okay, we get it. But
then there's the director's cuts, which are
of course, those are even I think that's what we watched actually. It's maybe the direct. I don't remember, but it was a while back. But yeah, I mean that's the thing I'm kind of liking now is that they're like, okay, we can cut this stuff back a little bit. We don't need to tell this deep of a story with and still make it enjoyable. So I like that aspect
if they could do that with their TV shows, that would be great too. Because a lot of the TV shows could be a movie.
They could be, yeah. So we're getting into some weird stuff. I mean, Phase 4 was kind of messy, but maybe it had to be, because if you kind of think about it, like you have Endgame, which literally is called Endgame, so that's supposed to end that whole story. So it's like, what do you do after that? Do you just keep going bigger and better? So it's like with Phase 4, I think it was kind of important to sort of like slow things down a little bit, have like individual stories like Hawkeye, who's not like a major superhero, and tell these kind of, individual stories that don't really seem like the stakes are just like completely high, like just one thing could just destroy the universe. Well, I guess Miss Marvel was kind of like that with the Jinn characters, but
it was still a personal story.
It was like with Hawkeye,
because you didn't have like the rest of the Avengers showing up or anything.
Yeah, right. So there was, I think Phase 4 was necessary, even if it was a bit messy. It's like you couldn't just keep go, like, you couldn't just go from Thanos directly into Kane. I think that would just exhaust people, you know? And,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for me, it would exhaust me because I'm already kind of going through like a superhero fatigue right now where I'm just kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of happened over a few weeks ago or a month ago. I'm just like, you know, like.
I think a lot of people are. I mean, it's like, I don't know if I am necessarily, but there are times when I'm like, I need something different.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like more personal stories than like, you know, big sprawling epics too. Like, I mean my favorite recent Marvel thing when I look back on it is Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Because it was a personal family story, you know, coming of age sort of thing, which made me care about it, you know, care about the stakes more than when you just got a bunch of people in suits that you don't really care about. Or even if you were built up to care about them, but it's like you don't have time within the movie itself to be like, oh, you know, I really identify with that guy in the suit and not that guy in the suit.
They all got suits, man.
Yeah.
You gotta have a suit. You gotta have it. It's like that's the number one rule.
Yeah.
For here, you gotta have a suit.
A
can you imagine
three-piece
just like
pinstripe. Wait. No.
Yeah. Well, not that kind. But like, well, you never know. Could be like that kind of suit. But like, yeah, you never notice that. Like, you don't just see like a superhero just wear like a t-shirt and like pants. Like they gotta have a suit, you know.
I mean, sometimes they do. You know,
they should make that though. They should make a superhero who just doesn't like have a suit. He's just like, well, I guess Jessica Jones. And
yeah, I was gonna say there have been some.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I really enjoyed the movie myself. Had a few issues with it overall, but nothing that totally made me dislike the movie. It was just you know, certain writing issues, I guess I could say. This one was obviously Paul Rudd didn't have anything to do with the writing on this one. He did on the last two. So
okay.
Yeah. You could kind of tell, and I would have liked a little bit more story on our actual Earth as opposed to the whole movie being in the quantum realm for the most part. But that's just my own, you know, feeling. And there's other, you know, underbaked characters that I didn't like. But other than that, I liked them. I liked the overall story. But yeah, that's just, I'm always going to find something wrong with everything. Just how I am.
Well,
even things I love. So yeah.
When you're doing a review, you can't just keep praises on it. That's it. You know.
So we can do like a basic breakdown of it. I don't think we have to get too detailed on this because I mean it was a lot happened in a little bit of time. But also not a whole lot in a little bit of time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty straightforward story. I mean, it was a point A to point B, pretty much. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's your typical story where you have an objective that you need to accomplish, and it's how you accomplish it. You know?
Yeah,
which is the basis of like any kind of heroic story. It's your, you know, getting the ring dropped into Mordor.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, very similar. I do have some things to say about that too, that aspect to it.
Yeah.
Which that's one of the things I kind of had a problem with actually. That I mean, I know a lot of stories are similar to each other, but there is like some stuff here that was like too similar to other movies I've seen. Like,
oh yeah.
I'll get into that, but we'll get into that.
Okay, so and before we start doing this too, if you're listening to this, in case I forget after this, make sure you go to all2ReelToo.com. Make sure you subscribe to the show, share it with your friends, download the episodes, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or wherever the hell you can do it. And, you know, We have merchandise at T Public. You can buy stuff there. Also, recycle.
Yeah.
Look both ways before you cross the street, and don't eat yellow snow.
Don't do it.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't eat any kind of snow, especially if you're in Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. Because you got lots of toxins and chemicals all over the place.
Trains derailing and stuff. Anyway, no biggie. So, okay, to the plot here.
Yeah.
All right, we start out, in the present day, or the MCU's present day after the blip. After Scott saved the world.
I mean, yeah, he played a pretty big part in that.
Yeah. No, he saved it. It was all him.
Well, not all him, but he played.
Were there other characters in that movie?
Yeah, I mean, he thinks he saved the world. A big part. Then again, a lot of it was being a chance, because if the rat had not stepped on that thing, he would have stuck in there forever. But he did play a big role. I mean, he's the one that came up with the idea of using the quantum, realm to trap time and all that stuff. So, he has some bragging rights for sure.
Yes.
Although, a superhero shouldn't brag, but whatever.
Oh, no.
No.
But, if you can't brag as a superhero, what else can you do?
I mean, I guess true.
You could be humble and so we've got this okay, so things are back to normal. Cassie is now like 18. She's, aged while Scott hasn't.
Oh yeah.
Now played by Kathryn Newton, who people may know from the movie Freaky, which, if you haven't seen, I highly recommend. It's one of the best horror comedies to come out in the last decade or so. Have you seen that yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
I recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Freaky Friday. The original title of the movie was like Freaky Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a horror movie where her character of this kind of like teenage girl switches places with a serial killer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, played by Vince Vaughn. So
Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see Vince Vaughn playing a teenage girl.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. So, anyways, check that out. But we're not here to talk about that. So what goes on here?
Yeah, I mean, Scott is kind of just living the good life. I mean, he wrote a book, and he does like readings and book signings, and he gets free coffee and food from this deli or whatever, because the guy thinks he's Spider-Man. And then, like, he's getting high fives from kids who are fans of him, and all that stuff. And but a little bit before that, though, you had the scene where Michelle Pfeiffer's character, I said Pfeiffer on purpose, but
okay,
what's her? It's a joke. What's her main character's name? Forgot her character's name.
Janet Van Dyne.
Or Janet, yeah. It's like a joke from Key and Peele where
is it?
It's like the two guys who are like work at the hotel, and they keep talking about Batman and stuff. And they were talking about Catwoman, and he kept calling her Michelle Pfeiffer. I don't know, I just thought that was funny. But anyway, so she's like kind of stuck in the quantum realm, and just kind of showing how she survived a little bit during this time. And then she sees like this like ship crash. And then she goes out there, and she's almost killed by like some, kind of like scorpion type of thing or whatever. And then someone shoots it and saves her. And it turns out that it's Kang, who had like landed there, and he's like asking her like, what is this place? He has, kind of no idea. So that's kind of like the beginning. Like, so we know like, oh, she actually knew Kang. Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And then So again, a lot of the story is actually kind of about her, not just about Scott and stuff. Actually, a lot of it's to do with her. And then then we get into like Scott's living the good life, and then he gets a call that from the county jail as he's doing one of his book readings, and his daughter was being held for like basically being in a protest or doing something, and then she ended up turns out she ended up shrinking one of the police cars with one of her, I don't know what you call it, device or whatever. And what's that thing called? Where you shrink the thing? Is it you know what that is?
I have no idea. I was trying to think.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if you got out of the room or something.
No, I'm still here. I was just trying to think about what it was called, and I couldn't think of
Well,
it.
whatever. She shrank the police car. They knew that she did something with it, but
yeah.
He's like, "Where is it? I know you did something with it or whatever." And then she puts like this little car on top of the desk. Looks like a toy car, but it's really a police car with this sirens going on. So we get into this whole thing, which that's one of the things too that kind of bothered me about this, where it's like he seemed to like know absolutely nothing what's going on in his daughter's life, which is weird because the whole point of like Endgame was that he lost all this time with his daughter and he wanted to like look for it, but yet he doesn't know how many times she's been to jail in the past year or so. Like, I don't understand that, but okay.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
Cassie could be keeping it from him too.
True, but it just seemed like
he was like it did seem like she seemed to have a closer relationship to Hope than her own dad.
Yeah, it's just I don't know,
and to Hope and Hank basically. So
yeah, it's weird. I don't know, but there's that kind of thing that just I felt kind of weird about, where it's like, how do you not like know what's going on with your daughter when like the whole point of all this was that you wanted to like spend as much time with her as possible because you lost 5 years of her life. And now he's like, seems like he's paying more attention to like his book stuff and his podcast and whatnot. It just seemed kind of weird. I don't know, whatever. I don't know if they're just trying to create some kind of like
conflict,
separation, conflict. Yeah, it just seemed kind of like they were trying to find something to, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to get too critical, but it's that a little bit. But yeah, just to kind of speed things up a little bit, turns out that she's been studying the quantum realm with Hank, and she kind of built this thing to sort of send a signal into the quantum realm so that way they can, learn more about it without actually having to go into it. And Janet's very upset about this because she doesn't really talk about her time in the quantum realm, and she doesn't really want, and pretty much wants the quantum realm in this world to be separated, not to have anything to do with each other,
and to leave everything that happened with her in the quantum realm in the past. Yeah, I just think it's interesting because it's like been years since she's been back, but she and Hank were blipped away, right?
I think all of them were except for Scott. I think Hope.
Yeah,
and Hope because none of them could pull them
at least
out.
Hope and Hank were. Or was Janet there at the end too? I'm trying to remember.
I thought they were all. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Whatever happened with Ghost? That story never got resolved. Is she still like being stuck like in the?
Because they were going there to get healing particles at the end of Ant-Man 2 to help her.
And then like they never explained if they did anything like even after the blip.
Yeah, like did he get the healing particles when he came back 5 years later?
I mean, I wish they would have at least addressed that somehow. But so for all we know, Ghost is probably still like being tortured, going back and forth, for 7 years at this point, or however long, whatever. And
I like to think that she's living in a nice, family home in Vermont somewhere with a white picket fence and 2.5 kids and literally 2.5 because there's one that just keeps slipping in and out.
But, I'm concerned about the 2.5, but
yes,
one of them's cut in half. I don't like that. That's like the whole Solomon story right there.
Yeah,
better cut this baby in half, and I'll know which one's the real mother when they decide not to let me do it. Oh my God, don't kill my baby. Okay, you're the real mother. Okay, yeah, you need to get that drastic. Okay, and then whatever. Speaking of ants, it reminded me because I just thought about this a while ago when we were talking about the ant. So there's actually a story in the Quran which says that Solomon could communicate with different creatures, and one of the creatures was that he could talk to ants. I'm like, holy shit! So like we got like a pre-Ant-Man here, like. We call him a Solomant, if you will. No, it's stupid. Sorry.
Sorry, that title's a little antiquated.
It is. Yeah, antiquated. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, they, of course, Cassie ends up accidentally sending the signal, and then, they get sucked into the quantum realm, and that's where the rest of the movie takes place, basically.
Yes, basically, this is the plot of Horton Hears a Who. And, wait, no. Because that's where it takes place, right? In Whoville? And,
yeah, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, might as well. No. No.
So, yeah, they get trapped in the quantum realm. And then they gotta basically find their way back. That's their initial goal. But they're separated. Scott and Cassie are separated from Hank, Hope, and Janet. So we gotta reunite our heroes and then get them back,
Yeah, one of those stories.
Uh-huh. So that's why I say, because then we tend to have two different movies happening for a little bit there. And I do like the thing about this movie where Hank is kind of taking a back seat in a little bit as opposed to what he had in the previous movies. Yeah. And we got more Janet. And it's interesting because Hank is kind of like not the most knowledgeable person here like he is normally. So we have this thing where he's kind of walking around and being like, hey, that guy looks like a broccoli.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excuse me, folks, if I keep hitting my microphone by mistake. There we go. Okay, I'm going to move out of the way. I'm not used to this new microphone.
Sounds pretty. It sound like a xylophone for a second.
Yeah. Okay, so then what happens?
No. So yeah, there's like two separate stories going on at once. Janet, she's the knowledgeable, this realm. She knows the people. She actually has like connections with different, groups and knows like who to contact. Because she lived there for 30 years. So, and this is one of the things that I'm kind of critical of, but at the same time, I liked it. It had a very Star Wars feel to it.
Oh, like this was definitely Peyton Reed's like Star Wars movie. He wanted to make a Star Wars movie, and this is what he did. He did direct a couple episodes of, I think, The Mandalorian. So he has kind of been part of the, he's directed all three of these Ant-Man movies. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because at one point they go into like a literal cantina. I mean, it looks a little bit nicer than the ones that you usually see in, in Star Wars or whatever. But like the whole thing of like drinking, weird drinks or, weird food or whatever. But
yeah,
I did like the whole thing
the cantina scene for the whole movie. But yeah,
yeah, and pretty much like so like, and then like that's like with Janet, Hope, and Hank, and like they drink this liquid that helps them like understand like what everyone else is saying. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then also too, like Cassie and Scott.
Yeah.
They get kind of trapped or like cornered by like this like tribe or whatever. And then like
it was very Return of the Jedi when they meet the Ewoks, sort of.
Oh, very much. Yeah, exactly. And it's okay, Dad, just drink the ooze. And she's got like this red stuff like dripping off her chin. And then the ooze comes out of this guy who's like kind of like a gelatin sort of being or whatever. And then
it's
that allows you to, be able to be on.
Veb is his name. He's a slime-like creature that lives in the quantum realm. He's played by David Dastmalchian. I can't pronounce his last name, but he also played Kurt in the previous 2 movies.
Oh, okay.
So he's the only one of the buddies to show up in this one, but as a different character.
A different character, yeah. I was kind of upset about that too.
Yeah,
we didn't
have them. Yeah, yeah, and he's been. It's weird about David. He was in The Dark Knight as a character named Thomas Schiff. He was in Ant-Man, as we know. He was also in Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1 as Julian Day Calendar Man as the voice of that. He is in the Suicide Squad as Polka Dot Man.
Oh, okay.
That's just in movies. And then in TV shows, he was on The Flash as Abracadabra.
Oh, okay.
So he's done a lot of Marvel and DC stuff. So
yeah, now I know who you're talking about. Abracadabra and then the polka. And okay.
Yeah, so he's a really good actor because none of those characters are alike. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, this cool jelly dude, he's got this thing that can make you understood by other people and they can understand you.
So the goo you're drinking is actually just him.
It's him, it's his essence, but whatever. And then like, it's very Star Warsy, like, it's an interesting thing, like the buildings are actually like alive,
yeah.
Like they're like just beings essentially that people live inside of, and like just kind of a cool thing. We kind of learned a little bit about, they keep referring to Kang as him. That was another thing that kind of bothered me about the movie. It's like, okay, we understand, like, you don't need to be so cryptic, like, the whole time.
We know who the bad guy is. It's not like...
The Conqueror, like, it's like, okay, we know, like,
Yeah. Well, maybe they didn't know his name or something. I don't know.
True, that's true, yeah.
But, yeah, and then the leader, the kind of like the leader of them is this woman named Jentorra, which I don't know if they ever mentioned her name in the movie. They probably did, but played by Katy O'Brien. And then she has a telepath friend played by William Jackson Harper from The Good Place.
Yep.
Named Quaz.
Yep.
Yeah. See, that was my main issue, was those characters were completely underdeveloped.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Like, they were just there for plot purposes.
Like,
it was the same issue I had with which we didn't get a chance to review, but that I had with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It was that the characters, besides like maybe our main character, were completely underdeveloped, and we didn't have enough time to actually give a shit about them.
Yeah.
So like if they're put into like a precarious situation where we want them to get out of, we don't really have the stakes we would with somebody like Scott or Cassie. Yeah. So
right, yeah, exactly. Because he has a pretty unique ability where he could read people's minds. I mean, that's pretty. I like to do it. He acted a lot like Chidi almost.
Oh yeah.
From, like he's like, please stop thinking that. Please stop thinking that. Like, I'm sorry, I'm.
I was happy to see William Jackson Harper in the MCU, but I wish they would have given him more to do. That
yeah, as well. Yeah, me too.
And that they would have given Katy O'Brien more to do too. I don't really know her from anything else, but still, she seemed like a good actress, and it would have been better to make her somebody. She's actually been in the MCU sort of before, if you consider Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. part of the MCU. She played a character named Kimball.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's interesting. I did not know that until I just looked it up. So, yeah. So, what happens next?
See if I got the timeline right. So, we kind of learned that, Kang has pretty much conquered, like, most of the quantum realm and just built, like, this huge... sprawling city taking over, and they learn about Janet because they're like, we just want to find, someone, and like, oh, Janet, we all know Janet or whatever. So then like Janet becomes like the whole like pillar around which people like are circling because like she's pretty much like known by everyone in this. And like, apparently she was like part of some like freedom fighting, type of revolutionary group or whatever.
Yeah.
To try to stop Kang from conquering, everything. And but there's like some bad blood between them because some of them feel like she's kind of betrayed them by leaving them or whatever type of thing. So, I don't know. And it's one of those things. We do get Bill Murray in the movie for like a good 5 minutes, maybe less.
Yeah. Did it seem to you at all? Okay. Almost like all of his stuff was filmed separately from everybody else.
Like what do you mean, like a green screen or something? Or
I mean, the whole thing was basically on a green screen, but
I mean,
but it almost seemed like, I don't know if he was in the same actual physical space as Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't really.
Yeah,
like
it's just what it seemed like to me. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we find out like later in a behind the scenes, feature of it that that's what happened.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I was just kind of. I was just kind of watching the movie. Plus, I didn't watch in 3D or anything. I just saw in regular standard. Cause I don't like 3D or whatever. I just like regular.
Yeah. I watched it in 3D, but that's still, I mean, it just didn't seem like they were interacting. That's
yeah,
all.
maybe they were.
Yeah. But I don't know, it could just be me.
It could be. I mean, you could be right. I mean, you notice film stuff more than I do though, too. So, it could be that. Yeah, so I mean, so Bill Murray's character, I forgot his name in the movie, but he basically betrays Janet by calling Kang or his army or whatever to.
It's Lord Krylar.
That's right, yeah. And it was kind of implied, well, heavily implied, that they were like an item during the time that he was, stuck in the quantum realm because, quote, she had needs. And of course, Hope is like, Mom. It's like, okay, I understand, like, when you're a little kid, or like a teenager, when you're like, oh, gross. It's like, by the time you're like in your 40s, you should know by now that you're and to like bang each other to have you. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, what? Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I guess maybe it's just like, the idea that her mom was with some other dude. Besides her dad,
So that was like kind of interesting thing. That was, it wasn't like overplayed or anything, but it was kind of like just being realistic about things. Like, yeah, if you're separated from someone for 30 years, like, you can't expect them to just be like celibate the whole time.
Oh, no.
Not, you know what I mean? Like, whereas like, maybe movies in the past, they'd be like, I waited until blah, blah, blah. Like, no, that doesn't happen.
No,
it shouldn't happen either. And,
no, you didn't. But the scene was very Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Like the dinner where we're gonna, have dinner with you, and then we're gonna, do a Lando and become the person that sold you out, sort of thing.
I mean, yeah, literally. I mean, like, because they were like up in the clouds, or not maybe up in the clouds, but they're up high.
Yeah.
And a spaceship literally comes down, with the soldiers to, arrest them or whatever. And like, I don't know, it's just like, I mean, it's not bad. It just is very Star Wars-esque,
Yeah,
and
I mean that thing, that the betrayal of an old friend is like a tried and true thing from ancient Greeks until now. So it's not like
it's not a new plot, device. But I'm trying to remember what else happens. I know that Kang ends up kidnapping or arresting Cassie and Scott at one point.
Yeah, he finds them.
Yeah.
And basically captures them. So yeah, and then they're both in these prisons. And he basically fucks with them in there and basically says that he's going to kill Cassie if Scott doesn't help him regain the power source for his timey-wimey traveling chair.
It's like the movie. Literally, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a chair that allows them to travel time,
Yeah.
I guess. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
sure. I haven't watched much Rick and Morty, but this was written by a guy who wrote on Rick and Morty.
Okay.
This movie was, so I've heard a lot of people say that it's very Rick and Morty-like too, so yeah.
Interesting.
And I know I know they time travel and stuff on that, go into different dimensions and all that good fun stuff, so I could see where that might come into play.
Right. So we kind of have two MacGuffins in this movie. We got the timey-wimey thing, but we're also trying to find each other as well. Uh-huh. So it's kind of like,
Yes. It's
I don't know.
It's like an egg MacGuffin. And, wait, no.
Yes, it's an egg MacGuffin, yeah.
Yes.
So, basically Scott is kind of doing what he did in the first movie, using his, like, thieving skills, I guess, to, capture this item for Kang so that he can then, rebuild his ship and then just travel different worlds, timelines, I guess, or something, where he needs to be the Conqueror or whatever. We find out that he was actually exiled there by other Kangs, like on like a council. I guess like the uppermost top Kangs who were like the most intelligent or powerful or whatever.
They exiled him to the quantum realm because he was going around killing bunches of people.
So is that why? Because he was like too bad, like too evil?
My thing is I think it was more that he was doing it on his own.
Oh, I see.
My feeling is because I don't think that some of the Kangs of the millions that there are care. I mean, I think they just want certain timelines killed off, not necessarily that you get to like pick and choose which ones you kill off.
Right. Okay.
Maybe it's like
so they're kind of worried about
predetermined ones that they need to. That's my guess. For future.
So basically,
based on like Loki and stuff. So
right. Yeah. So basically, they're kind of worried about competition, essentially, of him trying to be the one and only Kang kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, because the only good Kang we know is He Who Remains, which of course Sylvie killed at the end of Loki season 1. So, which is kind of what started this whole thing.
And he's kind of good. It just depends.
Well, he's good. Well, it's like he did what was necessary, unfortunately, which is, it took people's freedom away, but without that, it would just be millions of Kangs just running amok, so.
Yeah. I guess it's all like a perspective sort of thing with him, what I mean?
Well, it's a perspective.
Like,
okay, so
yeah.
I guess I would describe He Who Remains as doing a morally questionable thing because he feels it's the good for everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas the other Kangs just are obsessed with personal power and they still do evil things. So it's like doing something bad because you think it's actually for the good versus doing something bad and it's bad, but you like the fact that it's bad.
The thing I'm trying to figure out too is like, because like in the time variance authority there, like time is kind of at a different rate. So it's like He Who Remains is supposedly the last Kang.
Right.
So supposedly the stuff that happened in Loki happened after this movie. So
well, that's the thing that was always confused me about how time travel works in the MCU. So I get the feeling that time travel is like, alternate timelines is like part of the multiverse itself. So it's not so much of like having like two different planets called Earth or Saturn, but that like the alternate timelines sort of are like interlocked into that as well,
Yeah.
I'll not explain it better than that, but that's kind of how
it's almost like how like I guess if you want to go with the planet things, like how there's solar systems and then there's like galaxies.
Yeah.
Like certain timelines are connected in the same solar system, but there's galaxies that can be created outside of those, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, I mean, what else happens? Yeah, he's got to threaten to kill Cassie and make Scott have to watch it over and over in a time loop until he pretty much goes insane or whatever.
Yeah.
He won't steal this device for him. 'Cause that's the thing I forgot to mention. So, in the beginning, Janet and Kane are actually close friends because they're like the only two people that know each other. And she's helping him build his machine back up because he says that he'll take her back to her timeline or her home or whatever. But then when she touches his machine, which I didn't really quite understand, she like has all the memories of him and his conquering, which then realizes that he's like a bad dude. So she doesn't want to help him anymore. So then she like embiggens his time thing to like way larger, whatever. Embiggen.
No, I like that word. That's why I'm laughing.
That's a Flash reference, or also Legends of Tomorrow reference as well with Adam, Atom. Yeah, Adam, which is pretty much DC's version of Ant-Man, essentially. Kind of, well, not totally because he doesn't talk to ants, but like embiggen. And so yeah, she embiggens the circular whatever, the Mobius kind of thing, or it did look a little bit like the Mobius thing that Iron Man or Tony Stark did with his computer simulation. Kind of, to me, that kind of design, that's how he discovered time travel through his computer, whatever it was. There's also some theories too that Kang had even orchestrated stuff in Endgame and all this stuff too. Like he orchestrated Tony to quote discover time travel, so all this has been orchestrated by Kang this whole time, like Thanos, all this stuff. Like all these people thought that they were doing things on their own, but this was like a predetermined thing that Kang had just set
basically in like all people are just puppets that they're controlling.
Pretty much. I mean, that's kind of what they're going. I hope they go with the route, because we're going to get the Young Avengers at some point, and in one of those iterations, you actually have, because in one of the stories, Kang is actually a very distant descendant of Mr. Fantastic. I forgot his real name. And
Reed Richards. Yeah,
Reed Richards, and that he discovers at one point that he's destined to become Kang the Conqueror. So then he tries to then go back in time to prevent that from happening. So then he joins the Young Avengers, I think. So maybe we'll have a little, I don't know.
Yeah, because Kang's like basically real name is Nathaniel Richards.
Right, yeah, Nathaniel.
Yeah. And he's a descendant of Reed Richards. Yeah.
And I mean, they'll probably like, well, how can it happen if he's black? I'm like, okay, but like 3,000 years in the future, I mean, all you have to have is like two ancestors who are black, and you'll end up looking like, what I mean? Like, so
that is if they when they introduce Reed Richards again, because the one we saw that John Krasinski played, isn't necessarily the one we're going to have in our movies. So,
but even if it was, it could be, because we're talking like 3,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, like my ancestors 3,000 years ago were probably like Middle Eastern or something, So like, you know what I mean? Like just because, this dude from like 3,000 years ago looks a certain way, which I don't know, that might just be fan service, having him play Reed Richards because people were like begging.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. I mean, and there's no like real statements from Kevin Feige or anything that they're not going to recast him, because they're actually talk about there's been various people that have been suggested to be the new Reed Richards, including my favorite is I think Penn Badgley should play him, but that's just me.
Who's that? I don't think I know that person. I don't know his name at least.
Penn Badgley, he stars on the TV show You.
Oh, okay.
On Netflix. He's also a Baha'i.
That dude. Okay, yeah, all right.
I think he should be Reed Richards.
That would be like,
yeah.
That would be really interesting, yeah. You call him Baha'i Richard, that doesn't make sense. But Baha'i the Conqueror, that sounds stupid. Yeah. Anyway, but anyway, so I'm kind of lost here for what happens.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, it boils down to what we've got going on here is that the Langs are taken to Kang, who demands that Scott helps get his power core, that's what that's called, back, or else he will kill Cassie. Scott is taken to the core's location and shrinks down. He is nearly drowned in a sea of variants of himself. But at the same time, Hope and the gang are coming from the other direction into this center of this thing. And then Hope flies in there, arrives, and she basically helps Scott acquire the power core. Kang, of course, being an asshole, doesn't release Cassie, and he captures Janet, destroying her ship with Hank on it, so we think Hank's dead.
Yeah.
But Hank is actually rescued by his aunts, which have been, because time is weird and time is all timey-wimey and wonky.
Mm-hmm.
The ants have been there for thousands of years, and now are like these advanced ants.
Advance, yeah.
Yeah, they're advanced.
They're advancing. Yeah.
They had an advantage. And
they did.
They worked for Bob Vance Refrigeration. No, anyway, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I need help. They rapidly evolved, basically becoming like hyper intelligent, like basically, the Planet of the Apes version of ants. And
I know the ants.
Yeah.
Timeline of the ants and
Planet ant.
Yes.
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 Yes. So Hank ends up helping Scott and Hope as they make their way to Kang to rescue Cassie and Janet. Cassie gets out, rescues Jentorra from she's like in a prison, and then basically there's this big uprising, and there's did we mention Modoc?
No, I was gonna say we totally forgot about Modoc.
Yeah, the rebels the rebels are under attack earlier from Kang's forces, who are led by Modoc. Which means machine only designed. What was it?
Yeah, machine.
No, mechanized organism designed only for killing.
That's right.
Yes. So, yeah, we learn that Modoc is actually Darren Cross from the first movie. AKA Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
So, because he survived when Scott shrank him down and he was inside the quantum realm, I guess. So
I guess, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I don't understand.
And they saved him, and he became this Modoc, the craziest looking fucker ever.
Like its face was like just stretched out like a bad image where you just kind of stretch it,
like a bad facelift or something. Yeah,
that's what I liked about it. That was just so like not even good looking. Like it just looks so stupid.
And, I mean, Modoc is a character in the comics, but he's not Darren Cross in the comics.
Oh, okay,
so, yeah, it's just
wow.
And I think he actually exists in the real world and not in quantum realm. So it's in the comics. And I mean, there was a short-lived Modoc animated series with Patton Oswalt voicing him.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah, on Hulu. I watched an episode or so. It was actually kind of funny.
Okay.
But anyways, Cassie basically ends up appealing to Cross, to Modoc, and convinces him to turn sides and fight Kang. Though this ends up costing him his life at the end. But at least he died of an Avenger.
That's what he thinks.
Yeah.
Like, he's so full of himself. He's like, I always thought of you like a brother, Scott. He's like, you did?
Like, why?
It's like, seriously, they weren't even friends then.
It's like we knew each other for like one day.
I know. And he's like, oh, like, at least I died an Avenger. And he's like, yeah, you're in. I like that.
It's like we knew each other for less than a week, and somehow
I know, it's just like
brothers.
So weird. I know, it's just crazy. It's probably because it's like lost his mind from being down there. Like, Cassie literally convinces him to do that by saying, "It's never too late to stop being a dick."
Yeah,
it's true. It's good. It's good life advice.
Mm-hmm. I got that tattooed on my back, and
there's never too late to stop being a dick. And then, I can't believe we almost forgot completely to talk about him. Like,
I know.
It's funny. He only had like 7 minutes of screen time, but
Yeah, but it's still enough.
Yeah.
So basically what ends up happening is that Janet fixes the power core, and after the big uprising that basically, takes on Kang and everything.
Basically the rise of the Skywalker, and the whole cavalry shows up, and that whole thing. I was almost amazed that at one point, like, Kang was like, "Who are you?" And Scott was like, "My name is Scott Skywalker." Like
that was in the deleted scenes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, you could also say like Modoc laying down on the ground was very like Anakin dying at the end of Jedi.
Yes. And I wouldn't put him on the same level as Darth Vader, but
no,
because he's like a goofy little dude.
Yeah. But yeah, so Janet fixes the power core, and then everyone but Scott goes through the portal back home.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Kang, does the whole, thing where like the typical horror movie thing where you think the bad guy's dead, but he's not.
Ow! There's like a million ants swarmed him who are like human size or even bigger, and then somehow he survived the attack. Okay,
yeah.
Sure.
And so basically, Kang attacks Scott, nearly beating him into submission, but Hope returns, and together with Scott, they destroy the power cord and knock Kang into it, causing him to be pulled into oblivion. So who knows where he is? I'm not sure where Oblivion is, but I hear that they have good school districts.
Yeah, they're pretty decent. I don't know. No. Yeah.
Public transportation is not the greatest though, but it's, but yeah, whatever.
They have vegetarian issues and allocate.
Mm-hmm. But so Cassie ends up reopening the portal, and on her end, and Scott and Hope return home. And then Scott goes back to being happy and resuming his life, and he's having a birthday party for Cassie, even though it's not her birthday. And he's like thinking out loud, doing his like narration out loud, and he's like, yeah, we won, right? Yeah.
Right.
He's questioning things. Yeah, which I like. It's like he doesn't know if they won. So
yeah, like at first I was like, they can't just resolve the movie that cleanly.
No.
Like, oh right, they all make it back, and because at first I was thinking Scott was just gonna get trapped there and basically live in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
And then Hope came up. I'm like, okay, maybe it's both of them. And it's like, oh no, we're back. Everyone gets to go home. Like, oh yay! I'm like, that seems too convenient for like a Marvel
too
movie,
clean.
And,
yeah. So then, yeah, but basically he ends up he's basically thinking that something terrible is coming, which setting up the whole Quantumania, and
That thing, or the Kang Dynasty, which is
Yeah.
literally one who he's titled coming out. He's literally called Avengers: The Kang Dynasty.
Yeah, and we have a mid-credit scene after that, where we meet a bunch of various variants of Kang. They discuss the Conqueror's death and plan their uprising, and they're concerned by the increasing interest of the multiverse by the heroes of Earth 616.
And
So they're like, these fuckers are getting too curious,
right, like, no, they
Yeah.
know too much. So that's what I'm wondering about. I'm wondering, like, with the new big baddie, if it's not going to be a thing where it's like you're fighting Thanos, like it's more of like they might kill one Kang and then another one shows up, so you're not really actually fighting against like the same guy. You know what I mean?
And Jonathan Majors is an awesome actor, and he's playing.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing each of them differently. But the issue I have with that is you're not really connecting to the bad guy.
See, that's what I'm worried about. That's
what I'm worried about.
exactly.
I just hope we get one Kang, like even if it's this Kang that we just had end in this movie, maybe when he went off into oblivion, he didn't really die.
Right, yeah.
Like maybe he comes back and he's the big bad. Or
see that's
or
that's my
something,
hope.
or somebody that we can hang our hat on, that we can, because I mean it's like I don't know, in a series like this where you're gonna set up a whole big bad, it's different than like a James Bond franchise where you can have a different villain in each movie. This is different. Like
It's like, let's say they kill, Rama-Tut Kang in one movie, because that's one of the guys in the council with Rama-Tut. And we got a little bit of that taste in Moon Knight, where the one had a jacket and it had Rama-Tut on the jacket. So Rama-Tut, for those who don't know, that was one of the first things that Kang did, was that he went into ancient Egypt and became one of the first pharaohs, and that the Sphinx is actually its time ship that's made to look like a Sphinx. And Rama-Tut is one of the guys in the council. Then you got like a weird technocratic Kang who looks like he comes from like the way, way, way future, but it's like, if it's like one movie they defeat Rama-Tut Kang, okay, he's gone. Now we got the technocratic. I mean, that would be just like you're not getting attached to anyone particular. And plus, too, they held basically like an arena of Kangs, like thousands of them, like in the,
because we could have all of them and not care about any of them. It's like, I mean, it's kind of like the whole thing, like where the stakes aren't that high for like William Jackson Harper's character or Katy O'Brien's character in this movie, because we didn't really get to know them. I mean, they were on screen, less time than a guest star on a sitcom, so it's like,
and plus too, like,
and less developed.
With the whole council of Kangs, I didn't really quite understand what they're going into. I mean, they'll probably explain with the next movie, but because it seemed like some of them were like sort of like lower tier Kangs, like they weren't like super smart, because like the one guy was like jumping around like way too excited, like he almost seemed like a lackey, like not really like a super smart version of himself, you know what I mean? So
I mean,
it's
they're
like,
all going to be different. I mean, I think that it's like
true,
anything,
but it's just, why would they need that guy to help them when he doesn't seem like he's really all that?
Well, it just seems like they brought him all there just to,
It's just like, exactly.
Just because it's like, oh, you got an invite because it's kind of like when you invite that weird cousin of yours to your family reunion that you don't want to, invite.
True.
But he's still family, so you got to invite him.
You got to invite.
Yeah.
I'm probably that cousin.
I mean,
anyway,
me
but,
too. That's who probably I am. But anyways,
but like, But I thought the Aldi Kings were supposed to be smart. Maybe I was mistaken.
No, I don't think so. I think some of them aren't. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we got. Then we got a second one. You want to talk about the second?
Yeah. We got a second. We got a post-credit scene where we see this magician come up on stage, again played by Jonathan Majors, whose name is Victor Timely, and this looks like it's in the early 1900s. And then in the audience, we see Loki and Mobius. So from the Loki TV series, and Mobius says to Loki, he says, "Are you sure that's him?" Yeah, and so they're basically like, yeah, it's, and it's like he doesn't look that threatening.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, here's.
And Victor Timely is a character in the comics as well.
Oh, interesting. Timely, a good.
Yeah, and the name of it's interesting because the name of Marvel Comics before it was Marvel Comics was Timely Comics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And plus, too, the name Victor, so it means you're victorious, timely, so Victor over time.
Yeah.
That's
and that's what he's talking about on stage too, is about how time is like,
right,
really
valuable
valuable and very important. And so, and that's what's going to be very important in the future. And it's going to be a way to kind of like reset some things, I'm sure, in the future of the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like what they're doing over in the DC side with the new Flash movie, which I won't see.
The DCU or DCEU?
It's DCU now.
Okay.
It used to be DCEU. Because it
was
the extended universe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. But now it's just universe.
See, I'm starting to wonder if the DCU is kind of maybe replace, because Marvel's been ascended for a long time, so I'm starting to wonder if DC's going to kind of, because for a while DC was like struggled real hard to make a movie that was kind of good.
It's going to be hard to tell. I mean, they just got to make some good movies for it to happen. I mean, The Flash looks really good, but the whole Ezra of it all, I don't really know if I want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to plop my money down at the AMC to see that, So
exactly. Yeah, the shitty AMC theater.
Yeah,
where they want to now charge you extra to get better seats.
Yeah,
it's like, guys know you're losing when you're gonna try that.
Yeah.
Like,
more money to see a kidnapper on screen.
No, it's so fucked up.
Yeah.
Like summer of 2021, a stock price for AMC maxed out at about $72 per share. Of course, a lot of that had to do with stock manipulation of like regular. But now it's down to like $6 a share. So it's like that's bad. That's bad. That's really, really bad for $6. That's like a penny
it's
stock.
Like now let's start charging people for things that used to be free. It's the whole Elon Musk Twitter of it all. Like let's charge.
Well, now Meta's doing it too,
and now Meta might be doing that too with the verification stuff. So it's
I didn't like the fact too that you have to like order seats anyway. Like, why can't I just buy a ticket and sit where I want? I don't like that I have to even choose a seat anymore. But now they're like, okay, now you got to do that. Now we're gonna make you charge you extra for a good seat. I'm like,
I mean, not all theaters make you choose the seat. It's usually just based on the movie and the theater.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like I didn't have to choose my seat for when I went to see Ant-Man.
Okay.
Which I saw with my father, which was good. It was his first MCU movie that he ever saw in theaters.
Okay, that's cool.
Which was really cool. He enjoyed it. The first MCU movie he watched all the way through was the first Ant-Man.
Okay.
Just days before, and then we watched the second one, and then I took him to see the third. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was fun. I enjoyed going with him. So, yeah. But yeah, and I got to sit. We're in the nice, like the theater that I go to, the seats are pretty horrible in most of the auditoriums. But there's one nice theater in there, and luckily that was where they were showing it. So
yeah. Wow.
With the slightly comfier seats, which are basically like the normal seats in like other theater chains,
like Cinemark or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the normal seats in those theaters are their fancy seats. So
wow. Yeah, that's sad.
I mean, the only way to make some of the seats in these theaters, and I'm hoping AMC's listening, you got to fucking step up your game here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. If you want to charge people for where they're sitting, The only way that these seats could have been worse is like if they were some rusty old like folding chair or something. You know, that's the
Like
only
a
way they'd be
makeshift
like
cinema.
less comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a makeshift cinema where they just got like a big screen and they just put some chairs,
Yeah.
out or whatever.
Yeah. Like with a rusty piece of metal sticking in your ass the whole time. That would be the only way that would be less comfortable.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyways, it'll be interesting to see where this saga is going here in the MCU. I hope they stick the landing better with some of the movies. I mean, I don't understand why critics hated this movie for some reason. It seems.
See, I didn't really read any reviews, but I did hear that, there was
I didn't really read many either because I don't really like to read reviews anyways lately. I mean, there are certain critics that I like their reviews and I will read them, like usually after I see a movie. But,
of course.
It's just this, for some odd reason, Rotten Tomatoes score was really low. It was like lower than Eternals.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. Eternals was kind of weird. I mean, it was good, but...
I mean, the thing is both of those movies, I think, were a lot better than what critics gave them credit for.
Yeah.
Eternals had a lot of issues, but it could have been better.
Yeah.
It could have been better, but it wasn't, like, the worst movie ever made, like people were trying to say. Exactly. And then when this gets lower Rotten Tomatoes score, it's like, okay, why?
See, I wonder if it's like superhero fatigue.
I think it is because
projecting that onto the movie.
It's hard to beat that like feeling we had when we saw Endgame,
right,
in theaters like that. It's hard. It's like I mean, I've never done drugs, but it's like trying to recapture that first time you snort cocaine or something. You know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah, it's just that movie, that experience was so built up for 11 years. So, yeah, and the Iron Man movie came out in 20.
And when you're going back, like, I mean, because honestly, if you take Quantumania and compare it to some of the early, like MCU movies, it holds up compared to like, I don't know, like Iron Man 3 or other ones, you know what I mean? It's like,
or like the first and second Thor movies, which were okay.
Yeah, it's hard to, people look at those things with like rose-colored glasses. It's kind of like when people are like, "Oh, you're ruining my childhood by making Masters of the Universe now."
Oh God.
Yeah,
exactly.
But then if you actually go back and watch the original He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, you're like, wow. This is what people are willing to die on their sword for, on their powered sword for.
Their powered sword.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's like it's kind of like you haven't eaten at this restaurant in a while, and then you go back and eat there, and you're like, this wasn't as good as I remember.
Right.
Yeah, but it is what it is, and it's a fun movie. Very flawed, I'll admit. It could have been a lot better, but it wasn't like the worst movie I've ever seen, and it was better than a lot of other like superhero movies I have seen. So,
I mean, even from last year, like it's way better than Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah,
which was way too goofy for its own good.
I mean, I think it was better than like if we go to like DC movies that we want to compare like two different franchises.
Oh yeah, like Suicide Squad, the first
the first Suicide Squad, or like I tried to watch Aquaman the other day and I couldn't make it that far through.
Oh really? I'd never seen that.
No, I mean I'll probably eventually finish it, but it just wasn't doing it for me. Yeah. So yeah, it's like better than those movies in my opinion so far. So it's like, who knows? But just I mean they're postponing, sadly, the Marvels, which isn't going to come out until the end of the year, which might be a smart idea, though, to give a little bit of breathing room in between the movies.
Yeah, I think that's the fatigue because
Yeah.
now they got TV shows in between the movies, so it's like there's like a new project coming out like every 2 months. It seems
Yeah, I mean,
like it's like God,
if you have the McRib every day at McDonald's, it's not as special as when you just release it once in a while.
exactly. Or for Wendy's, because I don't like McRib, but like for
Yeah.
Wendy to have this really good mushroom melt cheeseburger with like melted cheese, which they don't make anymore at all, but it used to be a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
And I would like every February, I would like get that as many times as I could. But like if that was year round, I'd probably get tired of it after like 3 weeks. Like
it's like Cadbury mini eggs. I love those.
Totally, yeah.
I love those, but if they had them all year round, like they do in England, but they taste better there from what I heard. But anyways, so that's neither here nor there. We're getting way off topic, but I really but basically, I think the next TV show we have is Loki season 2.
Okay.
Coming out sometime in like, I want to say like June or something, or May or something.
Probably because that was when the first one came out, 2021.
Yeah. So we've got a little bit, let me see if it says, season 2, yeah, it's scheduled to come out mid-2023. It doesn't really say when specifically, but that's probably going to be our next MCU property that we'll be able to see.
Okay.
So, it'll be cool to see that and see if we get more of Kang in that, you know, or Victor Timely or whatever version we'll have in there.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. Any other thoughts here before we wrap things up?
No, I think I've said my piece, you know.
Yeah, me too. As I've said before earlier, make sure you go check out all2reeltoo.com. Give us a 5-star review where you can. Check out our Patreon and our TeePublic. Also share with your friends. That's very important. Like, after you're done listening to this episode, it takes like 2 seconds to just share it on Facebook. Or on Twitter or Hive or TikTok or ZipZap or Zoogie Doogie. And, those are things, right? Zoogie Doogie's my favorite.
That we should actually start a social media company called Zoogie Doogie.
Maybe we can get Neil Patrick Harris to get involved.
Yeah.
And we'll call it Zoogie Doogie Hauser MD. And
yes.
So anyways,
wow.
Make sure you Zoogie Doogie, yes. And make sure you're kind to each other. You know, that's important in this climate that we have in this world. Just be respectful and kind of each other. Stay tuned. Coming up soon, not the next episode, but in a future episode, we will be actually revisiting the movie The Reconciler that we covered for our religious reels. And we have scored an exclusive interview with the writer and also the director of the movie. So,
absolutely.
So that's going to be really kind of fun to get their point of view on things and explain why the movie is the way it is. They seem like nice guys, so this will be fun. And so make sure you stay tuned for that. But until next time, folks, remember that I love you, even if you're the size of an ant. Or, big like a giant man. Or just like a regular man.
Regular, yeah.
Or woman. Or non-binary person.
Yeah.
But also, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All2ReelToo podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.